Rhonda Saunders, passionate prosecutor and deputy district attorney for Los Angeles County. Because of her, groundbreaking new laws have been passed and replicated worldwide.
The route guidance will start now.
Since 1990, Rhonda's been on a mission to make California stalkers pay for their crimes before it's too late.
I get my cases in many ways. A lot of times police agencies will call me directly, or I'll get a call from the studios, or I'll get a call from a private security company that there's a stalking case. I've been able to do legislation. I've been able to make laws, stalking laws, threat laws.
Based near the movie studios, Rhonda's prosecuted stalking cases involving some of Hollywood's biggest stars.
Some of the famous cases that I've done: Steven Spielberg, Madonna, Gwyneth Paltrow, Eric Harris, Tori Spelling. I've prosecuted in the hundreds of stalking cases, but I've handled over 1,000.
But up until 1990, stalking wasn't even recognized as a crime. It took a shocking murder by this man to grab the attention of the legislators. The victim was a 21-year-old television star.
Rebecca Schaeffer was a young actress who played the ingenue lead in a TV show called My Sister Sam. And she was just starting her career. It was just taking off when she was brutally murdered by Robert Bardo.
For 2 years, the teenage fast food worker nursed an obsession for Rebecca Schaeffer. 3 times, he traveled from Tucson, Arizona to Los Angeles to try to meet with her. 3 times, studio security turned him away.
And then he went to the movies to see her in her first adult role. She was playing a bedroom scene with an actor. And to him, this was a complete betrayal. How dare she? This pure young thing that he idolized was in bed with this man. And he decided that he had to save her from herself. He got on the bus with a gun and hollow point bullets. And his intent was to find her and kill her. Bardo showed up, rang her doorbell, and surprise, she answered. She didn't have a chance to say anything, and he shot her once through the heart.
Later, for his trial, Bardo gave a chilling account of his crime.
Here is this young, promising actress laying on the ground in a pool of blood, looking up at him going, why? Why?
Bardo was found guilty of first-degree murder and in December '91 was sentenced to life without parole. His crime was a wake-up call that forced California's lawmakers to pass unprecedented legislation that outlawed stalking. It was also the case that set Rhonda on a crusade.
Before that, people were dying, people were getting raped, people were getting killed by stalkers, only we didn't have a name for it. We didn't have a statute against it. So in 1991, California passed the very first stalking law in the world.
Ms. Saunders, you have asked that this motion be counted.
And every year since, Rhonda Saunders has lobbied for ever tighter stalking laws.
The elements that we have to show to prove stalking is that the stalker repeatedly followed or harassed the victim. And harassing could be anything from sending unwanted flowers, sending dead flowers, leaving a 9mm bullet on the doorstep of someone's apartment. It's a series of acts that place a victim in fear, in horror, in terror. It's a crime of mental terrorism. How do you now plead to the charge that on or about May 12, 2001, that you committed the crime of stalking in violation of Penal Code Section 646.9? Does counsel join? Thank you.
Rhonda Saunders hasn't always been a prosecutor. Born in the Bronx, she started out as an actress. Now established in LA, her services are sought out by some of the richest and most famous people on the planet.
With celebrity stalkers, a lot of times they're seeking that notoriety. The stalker who killed John Lennon, the stalker who killed Rebecca Schaefer, they gloried in the fact that they'd pick up a paper while they were in prison and they'd see their picture next to the star, that their name will forever go down in history with that of the celebrity. Celebrity stalkers, though, can be very difficult to prosecute because people think, oh, this case got filed because of who the victim is. And that's not true. Victim is a victim.
And in the summer of 1997, Hollywood's most successful director found himself the victim of a fanatical stalker. Jonathan Norman was a 30-year-old model who drifted from job to job and lover to lover. Fresh out of prison for criminal battery and violent assault, Norman now had his sights trained on Steven Spielberg.
We don't know why he focused on Steven Spielberg, but while he was in prison for other crimes, somehow he became enamored with Steven Spielberg and started collecting articles about him. When he got out of prison, he went on the internet and got all kinds of information about Spielberg. He bought one of those star maps that you see being sold in Beverly Hills for $7 and found out where Spielberg actually lived.
Next, Norman launches a twisted campaign of terror that would test the limits of the stalking law. Jonathan Norman was a drifter, a convicted batterer, and now it seemed a bold stalker. Armed with Steven Spielberg's home address, he spent weeks staking out the film director's heavily fortified mansion. He purchased night vision goggles from a store in Hollywood, but still could find no way in.
So what did he do? He went to a car rental place, and he had to actually order a car that was identical to Steven Spielberg's wife's car. The same year, the same model, the same color. And he was hoping that he could just drive up to the gate, the guard wouldn't look inside, would think it was Spielberg's wife, and open the gate, and he'd be home free.
But this ploy also failed. Undeterred, at 1 o'clock in the morning on July 11th, Norman returned. This time, he was caught on Spielberg's security cameras.
He parked his Rover right in front of Spielberg's house. That's the security guard approaching his car, and then he approaches Norman. You could actually see Norman in the car. You see him? Right there. The security guard has approached him to ask him what the heck he's doing there. And he gave the security guard some story about, oh, my car broke down. But the security guard realized that the engine was running, there was nothing wrong with his car, and told him to move on.
By 7 a.m., Norman was back again. Spielberg's security team contacted the LAPD's stalking unit. Detective Jeff Dunn took the call.
Well, I was the supervising detective of the threat management unit at the time, and the call came out from West Tech security agents that there was a person trespassing in the area around Mr. Spielberg's home.
Norman had been found running through neighbors' backyards, brandishing a 5-foot stick.
Initial contact with Mr. Norman was to hospitalize him under Health and Welfare and Safety Code Section 5150 so that he could be evaluated and assessed as to his dangerousness to himself or his dangerousness to somebody else.
But 3 hours later, Norman was released, assessed as nothing more than an obsessive fan. No one realized how dangerous he really was.
In retrospect, Mr. Norman was a very dangerous individual. He had a very violent criminal past. He was delusional to the point that he thought that transmitters had been planted in his head and that Mr. Spielberg was possibly communicating with him through these transmitters.
Back home, Norman was preparing to strike again. Undeterred by his encounter with the police, he gathered together his arsenal of weapons. By 5 p.m., for the third time that day, he was back at Spielberg's mansion.
You see Norman backing his car up, And at one point, he backs his car right into the gate that leads to Spielberg's house, as if he's trying to break the gate down. There it is, right there. And he doesn't just stop.